I'm just going to go over how to deal with some bass and bass drum problems in like a little Psi-Trance bass riff. What I'm going to go through is just sort of typical things that I might do or look at to try and sort of get around the issues that I might find. If people know other techniques, then please respond on the threads or the videos or video responses as well, to try and sort of help these guys out with these issues. What I've got here is a little basic riff. I've got sort of typical acidic sort of bass drum there, and then just like a little running bass line. Now the problem here is the bass drum, the warmth is sitting around 50-60 Hertz there, and the bass line is sat squarely on the 50 Hertz there, or the warmth of it. So we get a problem where if you reduce the frequencies of one, then it's going to end up sounding like cold and things like that. So you need to make some sacrifices here and decide what you're going to do. You could either write the bass line at a different pitch, but then it's not going to be hitting in the right place or giving the right feel and things like that. So we're going to try and keep the bass warm and look at the bass drum. What you could do is automate EQs, so before the bass line comes in, that the EQ lets the bass drum stay warm, and then as soon as the bass line comes in, bosh, EQ it out. You could shelve the bass drum a little anyway. Okay, I've got a gentle 6 decibel roll off there, just to sort of make sure the extreme bottom is sort of clean, and I'm sort of boosting some more of the low mid-range frequencies to give the bass drum a bit more weight. And then you could also add a bit of overdrive or saturation to the signal, so it sort of has a bit more presence in the mix. So that's like the basic for the bass drum there. If you found that when the bass drum was soloed that your subs were rattling around too much and things like that, is you can do a different sort of shelving at the bottom, like sort of a steeper shelving. Actually, let me just pull up a different EQ just to show you a bit more what's going on here. EQs, Cambridge. There we go. Right. Okay, so let's change it there. So it's not that one, is it? There we go. Right. Now, here you can probably make out that there's a very extreme drop off there. Engineers would use this to clean up the subs, basically. There's a phenomenon called low subsonic rumble, where the sounds above might cause, when you get multiple bass sounds layered, you get a conflict problem and you start getting erratic nature in the bass in the mix. So what they do is they use like an extreme shelving to get rid of that subsonic rumble. This can colour the sound, so if you use it, use your ears to see if it's messing your sound up too much, because then if it is, you might want to give that sound more priority and clean up other sounds instead. So we can do that. Here I've reduced that peak a little bit, giving it a bit saturate it so it stands out a bit more in the mix. Now, what can we do to the bass line just to eliminate any problems there of bass bleeding around and ruining the sounds? I'll solo the bass line. Just some common sense things would be to check that the bass sound could be made mono, that there's only one note playing at any one time, so that you don't get any overlaps. You can also use your filter envelopes to make sure that they cut off quickly enough so you don't get too much sound bleeding into the next. That will tighten up the sounds a good degree. Check that your effects aren't causing a lot of problems and disturbance again down the extreme lows, and you can fix that with a steep shelf as well. And then the type of bass sound, I use filtered squares. Let me just mute that one out. For the main sort of part of the bass, and then some stereo saws to sort of back them up. What I would also do is make sure that the main bass sound is central and the others are pan stereo. And you can also get involved, if you want to go a little bit further, into mid-side and stereo, which is, let me get an EQ in here. I'm just going to use this EQ to sort of show the principle down here. Is that in Ableton you can have you can affect the middle channel and the stereo channels. So on the stereo channels I'd shelve off the bass and then just warm up the mono channel. Okay, so that keeps a nice balance, and if you're in a club or whatever you haven't got this imbalance in the bass, you've shelved all those problems. That will actually give you masses of space in a mix if you do that. So if you tend to all those problems, that's pretty much cleaned up everything for you. Just to add something to do with the bass that I forgot, is if you have a progressive bass, is that this frequency will move around. You'll see the peak start moving up, jumping around. Is that sometimes people find that one bass note is louder than the others. The common remedy for this is there is a science behind it that you can get involved in to find like the exact frequencies and things like that. People can do it in their head by the note that's being played, so they'll know that like a B flat is a specific frequency, and then they can EQ it down. But the idea is you create, this is called the seek and destroy method, is that you create a frequency of quite high Q, and then you hunt round for like the hot note, and then you can just cut it out like that, and then that will make your bass pattern more controlled and flatter, rather than having notes that stand out and peak.